Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Arcane Assist. As mentioned previously, we've had a lot of requests for Primal Terrors in the channel. So I brought Craig on to play some Primal Terrors.
Hey Tim, how are you doing? Good to be back.
Yeah, doing real well. Having a good time. So I'm playing, flirting with Circle. I'm in definitely the testing period of time. This is the, what am I going to play next year? What are things going to be like? Debating between Retribution and Circle. Those are the real high-end contenders for me for things that I want to take on the convention circuit next year. The Circle CID is still underway. It has officially concluded, but is in the internal testing phase at the time of recording. So we're playing pre-CID rules on everything here. I'm playing Kromac in a kind of a weird list. This is a Bones of Orboros Kromac list. So there's some things that don't click super well here. For example, the feat doesn't affect most of the battle group. You do get access to Ghetorix, which is kind of cool. Ghetorix gets to heal automatically for one when you read from him, which is just kind of a cute theme benefit. And you've got a really amazing Primal Shock off the Woldwrath because it's a POW 16 offensive 2-cost nuke, which has a really big footprint on the table. I think some things about this theme are really neat and I think really cool, and I wanted to give it some more table time so that I could, back up what I've been sort of spouting on the internet. We are playing, however, a melee-oriented theme force into Primal Terrors, which is obviously really, really strong into other melee-based theme forces. Craig, do you want to talk about which version of Primal Terrors you're playing today?
Sure. So I know you mentioned the word melee, so I've brought a list that sort of has generating a lot of buzz lately on the internet. So it's Anamag, the Doom Feaster, with a battle group of the Blightbringer. Ammok the Truthbearer is attached. And the rest of my list is 2 Spell Martyrs, 1 Warmonger War Chief, a maximum unit of Chosen of Everblight, 2 Helmos, and 3 units of maximum Blighted Ogrun Warmongers with Gorag Rotteneye.
Yeah, it's a lot of bodies. It's a terrifying force. Should be really interesting to play against. Conversely, my list is pretty light on bodies. I brought the Woldwrath, and I brought Ghetorix. I've got a Wold Guardian and a Woldwyrd. And then I have 2 units of Sentry Stones. And then I have a unit of Shifting Stones with a unit attachment and a second unit of Shifting Stones. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right into the game, show you what's up. So, here we go, deploying away. I won the die roll here and elected to go second, choosing a slightly more open side, which I felt gave some flexibility to my Woldwrath. We'll go over the terrain nice and quick. This is using the cool new Bloodstone Marsh terrain set that Ian put together for us. So obviously a bit of a desert theme. At the top we've got a forest using the sort of spiky bone trees. And then we've got a couple of obstructions, a wall in my close zone there, a piece of water, another wall, an obstruction, and then a rubble template with a couple of removable pieces of obstructy terrain. The scenario is standoff?
Yes, I believe so.
Mm-hmm. And here we go. So, Craig, you're deploying first. Talk about some of the choices you made here.
So the main choice here is the Blightbringer sort of has a pocket that it can sort of live in for the game around mid-board. The Blightbringer definitely wants to go mid-board. The obstructions on this board have actually limited its potential pretty severely in that it can't advance once it runs first round. Thankfully, I'm going first, so I can actually afford to run first round without exposing my ogres to too much danger. But it's going to have some severe potential problems. Mm-hmm. So just flooding the board with other bodies is essentially the idea.
Yeah. Having pretty clearly telegraphed the placement of the Blightbringer, I'm going to deploy the Woldwrath more or less opposite it. Try to use that presence to bully. Ghetorix is going to deploy pretty centrally. I immediately changed that plan. I deploy the Guardian pretty centrally. The Guardian's one of the pieces that can... It's interesting. He is hyper-aggressive because of Kromac's Field Marshal. So there's a couple of situations where he just decides to put some late-turn chip damage in with a gun or something like that. And I can just hyper-aggressive that Guardian forward a couple of inches. Just do his thing. Ghetorix is going to deploy opposite the Chosen on this top zone here. I'm hoping I can get Ghetorix into some Chosen and really sort of bully them pretty aggressively. A lot of my list ADs. I have a Gallows Grove on the list that's basically for the Primal Terrors matchup. There's nothing essentially that Kromac needs to arc. Occasionally he'll cycle a Vengeful or an Awakened Spirit over somewhere, but generally speaking, the real reason for the Gallows Grove is that it's got that entropic force, so it can deny toughs, it can deny healing. It's a really cool tool that's available. That's some Kruger 2 tech that I brought back from Poland. I've got a couple of Stoneshapers. They got placed on the board sort of near the Woldwrath and the Guardian.
Just deploying the Hellmouth sort of very conservatively here. It threatens the zone, but I don't want it to necessarily get shot up too readily. So just want to put them in a place that they can do stuff but not be exposed to danger.
Mm-hmm. So I've got 2 units of stones here. Because I have the stone unit attachment, I've got a little bit of flexibility in terms of how the stones work. You can do the thing where you use 1 unit of stones to port the UA forward, and then he shifts himself, and then you can do like a rock hammer into a deployment zone or something goofy. Probably not going to come up this matchup just because POW 14 is usually not enough to kill any of the Ogrun, because they end up being like arm 16, arm 18. So then you're just like throwing him away to roll a hard 7 somewhere and hopefully not take a tough check.
Mm-hmm.
Sentry stones, I'm hoping to kind of treat them like a poor man's Hellmouth. They're gonna contest zones, stay relevant, prevent me from just sort of losing the game on those features. And just like that, we're off.
Yeah. So I run up the Hellmouth to its position.
Blightbringer.
Yeah. Sorry, the Blightbringer. If I ran the Hellmouth, I cheated. Anyway.
It can run. It just won't move.
It's true.
You do Dragon's Breath?
Yes. Because I figured this turn is going to be a positioning turn. I don't need the minus Death Aura from the Withering Ash warp. So just sort of going to get more benefit out of the +2 armor. Anamag is going to probably throw up Bond of Gristle and Bone, not on the Chosen, because they're opposite the Woldwyrd. So it will just shoot them and probably just take them out. Instead, I'm going to think about putting it on the bottom unit of Warmongers. So they will have more of a problem to deal with.
Yeah, we've played this matchup a couple of times, and the Woldwyrd ends up being a really key piece. I like the Woldwyrd with Kromac. It gives him a gun, like a sort of a reach out and touch you factor, which he doesn't have necessarily in a lot of other themes. And also, obviously, it punishes upkeep spells, which are something that he doesn't otherwise really interact with very much.
Yeah, so the one top obstruction there is actually funneling my army very hard through that spot there. So this is going to be a bit of an issue for me, all things considered. So we're just going to move the Hellmouth up to engage some Mannikins, because the Mannikins are going to struggle to kill the Hellmouth tentacles, I believe.
Yep, we're going to just sort of slap at each other a little bit over here.
And then I move this unit up. I actually critically intentionally put one of my Warmongers base to base with the Hellmouth, so that if the Woldwrath walks up and shoots the Hellmouth, it might force a vengeance attack.
Yeah, it's pretty clever. I'm looking at that and thinking like that's a super awkward situation, because obviously I want to kill that Hellmouth as kind of like a 2-turn plan with the Woldwrath kind of boosting damage into it and then boosting damage into it again, but I don't want that to cost me my Woldwrath, which it very well could with the damage multipliers that Anamag has available to her.
Yeah, so the Chosen are moving up around. I know that this is playing right into the Gallows Grove, but I have no real other choice, so I'm going to move back so the Gallows Grove can't get more than like 1 or 2 of them, if at all.
Yeah, it's a good line of play. I mean, obviously, I had AD, so I got to deploy reactively, and I put the Gallows Grove, in the only spot where I knew the Chosen needed to be, based on both terrain and where they deployed. So
yeah, got a bit of a jam up over here, but that's just the nature of the funnel on the terrain. So
sometimes side choice is relevant.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that can come up. I don't feel like the game was completely decided by side choice, but I do feel like it ended up being a factor that kind of mattered.
Yeah.
Anamag's moving up, throwing out the upkeep spell on these guys, the Bond of Gristle and Bone.
Yeah.
It's feign death.
Critically important is 2 extra inches of casting range.
Yeah, Ammok gives you the 8-inch range on your friendly spells instead of 6, which is a big deal. So, let's have a turn. So I kind of sit and dither about this turn for a moment or two. There's a few things that I want to do. I want to get my upkeep spells out there, put Awakened Spirit onto Ghetorix so that he can cast Spiny Growth for free, go out and put Vengeful on the Woldwrath. That's a cool interaction, as the Woldwrath has an optional knockdown attack on its melee, which is AoE 4. So if something comes in and hits the Woldwrath, often you can knock the thing that hit you down and also maybe knock down 1 or 2 of its also charging buddies. So the Retaliatory Strike on the Woldwrath is a really cool piece of tech. You just have to be really careful with it. If you're too greedy, you lose the Woldwrath early, and then you don't get enough for it, and that's a tricky part of this list. So I'm going to boost hit a shot on the Blightbringer. I've got the Fury for it, so it doesn't really cost me anything to boost. I hit, I boost damage on the roll, and I do a chunk of damage to the Blightbringer. I think it's like 6 damage.
Yeah.
Like that.
Potential artillery duel going on here.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Little POW 10 if you walk into that bad boy on that AoE 5. Nothing base to base with the Blightbringer, so nothing else to boost. Woldwrath's good there. No need to put up his Animus. The Animus is kind of neat because this list has a bunch of like rock sprays. Like I can spray with the Stoneshapers, and I can spray with the Blackclad Wayfarer. So that's cool because they're crit knockdown, so you get an extra die on them. So it makes those crits a lot more reliable. The Stone UA also has a crit knockdown Rockhammer shot. So those are pretty decent attacks. Gives you some weird kind of mid-game tools where your support kind of transformatively jumps up and like all of a sudden does real work with damage. Kromac's just moving up. He cast, as I mentioned, Vengeful and Awakened Spirit on those 2 models. He then casts Spiny Growth on himself, and he's camping a couple. Ghetorix just walked up behind that wall and is good. Stones sort of shift back a little bit so they're available to port things. And the Woldwyrd is probably going to reposition a little bit. I was expecting the armor buff on the Chosen. I didn't really get that. So we're going to do something a little bit differently. The Blackclad Wayfarer is going to port up to the stone using his stone shape. The Guardian's going to run up here, maybe kind of threaten the perimeter of that top zone. And the Woldwyrd's just going to jog over here to the bottom and be kind of closer to the unit that doesn't upkeep spelling them. I forgot to mark it, but the stones, of course, get their maintenance phase Fury. So that's a little cheeky of me to do that now, but Craig was pretty cool with it. They end up backing off a little bit. That one backs off a tiny bit. Its Mannikin friends just advance into melee. Kind of try to jam the Hellmouth as the Hellmouth has jammed me. It's going to be a weird couple of turns, I think.
Yeah. You almost put the Blackclad Wayfarer or the Stoneshapers base to base with the Woldwrath, but opt against it.
They get +2 armor, but then they die to blast damage from the Blightbringer. So I chose not to do that.
So this turn, I'm thinking there's a couple stones that are sort of close to each other, as well as the Blackclad Wayfarer, sort of all in like a clump of models here. So I'm thinking that's an option there, is that I can do that, break a unit of stones, and also potentially get rid of the Wayfarer. Another option is there's another clump of stones where I can essentially break 2 units of stones at the back there, behind the Woldwrath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's... I don't know. I probably shouldn't have clumped up quite as much as this. It's tough. I mean, obviously, Craig has taken a lot of table space, occupied a ton of real estate. So I'm playing what I've got in terms of elements in my list a little conservatively, and he's ready to punish me for that.
Yeah. So just looking at my options here, spending a bit of time sort of mulling over my my decision points this turn. There's not a ton I can do here. I'm going to just wail on these Mannikins for a bit. One Mannikin, kill it. If I kill one Mannikin, it's bad because I just extended their threat range. Kill 2 Mannikins and it's fine.
Yep.
In this case, I think I managed to kill 2 Mannikins.
Yep.
Just chasing 6s followed by not 1s.
Seems ideal.
And then I think I do something similar with the other Hellmouth unit. There's a lot of steady and sturdy in this list, so like the pushes aren't super reliable. But here's a Blightbringer going to make a shot at the back stone there, which will...
Notably, at the end of its activation, it takes a POW 10, which does nothing. So you stayed out of 12 inches of the Woldwrath, respecting the possibility that Hunter's Mark.
Yeah.
And you're taking a shot at the stone. You hit it, boost damage on the stone, and it's POW 15, so -3.
Yeah.
So you're looking for an 8 to kill. You break the stone, and then we check the AoE on it, and you clip one member of the other stone, Kromac himself, and I think a Stoneshaper too.
Yeah.
So you boost damage on the other stone. This one I'm not expecting you to get. This dice -10, so you need to roll a 15.
Mm-hmm. Kromac takes a couple points. Woldwyrd actually takes a surprising amount of damage too.
Yeah, you boosted damage on the Woldwyrd too, and it's dice -6, -8, and you do I think 6 damage to it. So that's a nice little a little spike.
Anything I can do to that Woldwyrd to make it less effective later on.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that like I can't just like dump some Fury with Kromac to heal it up, even though he's pretty Fury efficient. Like the Objective can heal it, the Stoneshaper can heal it. It'll heal one when it gets reaved from, but like Wolds are constructs; they can't be healed the same way as living war beasts.
Yeah. So the rest of it, the turn is basically it's going to be another positioning turn. The one thing about being a force with just 3 units of melee units is basically that they don't do a lot the first couple of turns. So it's basically going to be threatening board space, and I'm going to be moving up aggressively.
Actually makes your decision wins a little quicker.
It does.
Yeah, which I think was relevant.
So here are the Hellmouth Whales on some Mannikins, and basically just removes 2 or 3 of them. I think I just got 2 of them. I double ones the damage roll.
Like you do.
Yeah. So it's not super critical. That Mannikin is in prison, so
yep,
it's not going anywhere in a hurry.
Getting snuggled by that Hellmouth.
So I'm going to position these guys up further a bit more, like basically almost daring Tim to proc Vengeance in a really inefficient way.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking that he can probably put a bit of damage into it, but maybe not kill the unit. The Gallows Grove is nowhere near it, so that's actually a huge benefit to their tough.
Yeah, that helps because then you get to take advantage of tough checks.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm going to put more of these guys centrally. Like Gorag's unit is going to go middle of the board because essentially he can use his no quarter mini feat to sort of aggressively reposition that unit if I need to. Like if that Woldwrath walks up, then I can easily get most of the unit onto it.
Yeah, you can be a little further than most of the Warmongers would be and still be able to charge into range.
Yeah, I think it cost me about 1.5 units to kill the Woldwrath, approximately.
Yeah, and sometimes you can go into it with a 2-turn plan too. Like it heals quite a bit on my turn, but not back to full. So
yeah, as long as I can keep my Blightbringer safe.
Yeah, and I think the board here helps you. Obviously, being out of 12 of the Woldwrath is a big deal. So we're doing some measurements here, just checking to see.
Yep. So with the Spell Martyr running up, that I could potentially throw out a Hex Blast here and break the other stone unit.
Yeah, you're a little focused on breaking the stone unit, and I think maybe not without good reason. Like I think that's a smart line of play. I've obviously let them be up fairly far on the board, and with access to Spell Martyrs, Anamag is a pretty good blaster caster.
Yeah, so in this case, also within the AoE 3 is the Blackclad Wayfarer.
Yeah, I mean, that's dice -5, but, a boosted 10 might happen, so you kill the stone. I think you do end up boosting the blast damage here.
Yeah, but I figure it's worth it.
Yeah, 10's better than 50-50, so
I'm just making sure that you don't have any sort of weird tricks like an Arcane Vortex or anything like that.
Moment has passed. No Arcane Vortex. Go ham. I think you're trying to figure out if you're assassinatable, and I'm like, if I run the Woldwrath 10 inches straight forward and Primal Shock off of that, you're still out.
Yeah.
Because you're not within 18 of it. And you're like, okay, fine, I can go down to 1 camp.
So I just want to be super careful here because nothing's worse than just being in a decent position than just giving away the game.
I don't know. It's not soggy fries.
So just going to boost that blast damage roll. And I think I do a couple points to the Wayfarer.
I mean, they're armed 13s. They're a little tougher than they look, but you don't quite roll the 10. I think you roll an 8.
Yeah.
So you're alive on 2 boxes.
But if nothing else, you are much more honest with your threat ranges now.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely losing the shifting stones is not an ideal set of circumstances.
So Gorag's unit just sort of walks up to sort of exploit the board later on.
Mm-hmm. Being like, here, would you like to kill 1 Warmonger? And I'm like, no, I don't want to kill 1 Warmonger. You never let me do nice things.
And Chosen walks up and ices the last Mannikin.
Is he a man or is he a kin?
And then just sort of position backwards. I know the Gallows Grove is going to be able to get anybody it wants into in range, but that's fine. I'm going to make you choose 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, if Ghetorix had Pathfinder, I think I would kill 3 or 4 this turn. But instead he doesn't, so I'm going to kill 1 or 2. Post CID, again, I think Ghetorix is getting a pretty substantial buff. I wonder if he'll be just a bit more ubiquitous. It's really cool having him in the Bones theme, but it remains to be seen if he's quite there with this list. We are filling up those Sentry stones and placing some mannequin friends, doing mannequin things.
That one's placed in the melee range of a chosen.
Sure is. You wouldn't believe how happy he is there.
Then that one is placed in
the back arc of a Warmonger, ready to unleash his spray of doom.
And that Warmonger is not actually within the Dragon's Breath aura.
Yeah, one of them managed to be out.
So again, just evaluating Tim's just sort of looking at the angles here and what he can sort of get from me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to use the Woldwrath to kill just like a whole bunch of dudes here. That'd be real nice. Interestingly, the feat is kind of mostly a damage multiplier for Kromac and Ghetorix. Like, that's basically all it does. Or give Kromac an extra 2 armor on a turn. So I debate feeding for a minute, but I decide I don't really want to do that if Kromac's not going to go all in this turn and really just try to do a ton of work personally. Without sprint, he's a little bit more linear. He has to play the center of the board a little bit more. So I make some calculated decisions about Kromac's positioning here. So we ported the Gallows Grove up to get a couple of chosen in range, and we charge with a Guardian. The Guardian hits and knocks down that chosen. His power strength 17, so he's gonna, 18? 18. So he's dice minus 1. Charge attack. He's rolling 9, rolls 9, kills the chosen. No tough check because he's in the entropic field. So Guardian kills chosen. Guardian's a good piece to contest with there. He's armed 20. He's 35 boxes. Like it's kind of a come and feed on me, and we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. My hope is that I can pull a lot of the Ogrun and the chosen out and Anamag's feet to kill the Guardian, and then walk in with Ghetorix and kind of play cleanup.
Yeah, essentially I have to choose between Woldwrath or Guardian, and probably not both.
Yep.
So here comes the Mannikin, who actually does a substantial amount of damage to the one chosen, who is currently in the entropic field. So winds up doing good 5.
Yeah, I mean, Mannikins are dice minus 6 on these guys.
Yeah.
So he manages to roll a boost at 11. Pretty good. Doing his part for the team. Jamming things up and contesting awkwardly. Telling folks what's what. So we're going to do the Woldwyrd next. And the Woldwyrd is now correctly positioned opposite the people who have a spell buff. So it's going to use its Purgation shot, fire its first shot, boost damage. Arm 20 on this guy, so this dice minus 8. Needs to roll a 13 to force a tough check. Rolls a 13, kills the guy. Tough check. He does tough. So killed one guy and forced the other guy to tough. They have feign death, so I can't shoot him again. So he just takes a shot and kills a piece of calamari. So that's the Woldwyrd done. I really love how they just have 3 shots now. That gives them so many tools.
Yeah, they're very versatile little pieces.
Yeah. The broken unit of shifting stones contests the opposite zone. This is bottom of 2, so this is the first scoring opportunity. I'm hoping to get the 1-point lead that I'm entitled to, which is nice.
Yeah, I didn't feel super comfortable with throwing a unit in the zone because I figured that would just...
And I probably just clear it. And
yeah.
Then, you're not in a better spot, but you've given up a lot of pieces attrition-wise. The Blackclad Wayfarer moves up. This guy's not quite in cover range, so he's just going to try to get a Hunter's Mark on him. Def 12 needs a 5. Lands it. Gets a Hunter's Mark on that guy. Frees the Woldwrath up to just get real aggressive. Charge that dude. Get in there. Kill some more Warmongers.
So I'm I wasn't expecting to lose a whole unit. I'd expect maybe to lose a piece or two, but...
Yeah, the Woldwyrd did good work. That helped a bunch. So we're going to have a Stoneshaper go up, and he's going to give Stone Strength to the Woldwrath. The Woldwrath still has Vengeful, because Kromac upkept that. And he's going to charge the Hunter's Marked guy, get all 3 in his melee range. With his charge attack, he opts to boost to hit, because he's attacking over a wall. Hits him, chooses to knock the guy down. His buddy's in blast range, so they both get knocked down. That helps a ton. Charge attack is POW strength 21, so forces a tough check, which the guy can't do because he's knocked down. Second initial on the other knockdown guy. We're going to kill him as well. And we'll buy an attack, and we'll kill the other knockdown guy. Woldwrath for the win. He debates putting up his Animus here. And he elects to put up the Animus. Mostly so that I can put like a Stoneshaper rock hammer into an ogre and like try to polish off the unit or something.
Mm-hmm.
Be real nice. I mean, that Hellmouth is still going to basically contest that zone infinitely, but it's worth taking a shot at it. Woldwrath is kind of, it's in a bit of a bully position because the Blightbringer can't really get past it. So now it's like, okay, Blightbringer, come kill me, and then do I follow up and kill the Blightbringer with whatever killed? Like, there's that kind of piece trade occurring.
Mm-hmm.
So over here we're just rolling.
I think this is the rock hammer on the Stoneshaper.
Yes. So the stones activate next. They port. The Stoneshaper ports. The stone models themselves port. And they just kind of, they move up to be in position to contest the other zone next turn. And 3 dice because of Druid's Wrath. Hit, no crit, so no knockdown, denying tough, but does enough damage to force a tough check.
Mm-hmm. Which I do.
And there you go.
So Feign Death is actually kind of a problem right now.
Yeah, so I can't shoot that dude with anything else, but he's knocked down, and he's probably out of rise range, so he's basically fine to ignore. Activate Kromac next. And one of the things I think is really cool about this list is access to that sweet POW 16 Primal Shock. So Kromac's going to activate next, and he's going to cast Primal Shock. Ghetorix goes first. Ghetorix just moves into position, again, hoping to be the thing that goes in after that Guardian dies to Anamag's feet. Kromac casts Primal Shock, throws it at the Hellmouth, just trying to get like a 2-turn plan onto the Hellmouth. We're going to go ahead and...
So when you said that the Hellmouth contests the zone infinitely...
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm again, it's like POW 16, so there's -2, and I blow up a Hellmouth. Yeah, okay, so that was not expected. That's not, like, that wasn't the plan. That was a 2-cost Primal Shock and boosting. He then casts Spiny Growth on himself, and I stay out of threat range of the Blightbringer, even though I think you'd have to kill the Woldwrath to get in on me, and I sort of step back into the zone here, posturing a little bit aggressively. The last things to go are the Sentry Stone unit. They walk into melee, so they're POW 11s. He's actually still armed 19, so like I need to roll 9s to kill him. I'm going to boost damage, or pardon me, they both charge. They boosted damage on both of them. The first one doesn't break armor, but the second one does and kills him. And then the Sentry Stone will create a forest, just in case Craig wants to like deny me a scoring unit by like sending a crazy Gallows or Hexblast way over here. And that is surprising but not unwelcome, because now I score the circle zone as well as my own zone. So at this point, it is 2-0 for circle.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm now panicking. I realize that my entire flank has collapsed way earlier than I was expecting it to. I can potentially get rid of the Woldwrath because I can get most of Gorag's unit onto that, assuming I can clear out the stones, but that's awkward. So, like, maybe I can get, like, 3 or 4 of that unit onto him. The Blightbringer can charge at an angle that would potentially allow me to get him onto him, so I can probably get rid of the Woldwrath potentially. It'll cost me a feat to do so, for sure, but I think this is probably the turn to do so. But also I realized that Kromac is camping 1 and sort of sitting in an awkward position, sort of mid-board.
Yeah.
So Anamag has one of her spells is Gallows. So even though Kromac is in a position where he can't come for, like I can't go at him, maybe I can make Kromac come to me.
The sort of Mountain to Muhammad system here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The other thing that's relevant about Anamag is she has access to up to 3 Gallows a turn. So, like, 1 Gallows is a pretty terrible threat extender. 3 of them is pretty good.
Yeah.
Because pulling D6 inches isn't very good unless you pull, say, I don't know, 2d6 inches or 3d6 inches. Because she can have one of those ogres kill a stone and proc casting a free spell and cast a free Gallows, pulling Kromac again.
So I do have a Spell Martyr central board, which is actually pretty useful here because I can use that to get a more favorable Gallows angle. Because as we're sort of discussing here, where Anamag needs to go, that Wayfarer is in the way. So I need to sort of get in a way that would not pull you towards the Wayfarer, but would sort of pull you around it. So the Spell Martyr might be the key to all of making this situation work. So we're sort of looking at this measuring position here and sort of measuring it very meticulously.
The way the wall is positioned and your own objective is positioned is short of just killing your own objective. You almost have to pull Kromac into melee with the Blightbringer. Like, you don't have a lot of play with the Blightbringer's positioning. Like, it looks like you could just walk 5 inches toward Kromac and only need a couple of inches on the Gallows, but you can't land there. And the wall and the objective, like, there's room for you to shuffle up a little bit, but not very much, and you can't quite fit between the two pieces. So, like, you do basically have to pull Kromac into melee, or very close to into melee.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking for some decent Gallows numbers, but it's certainly not a vector I was thinking about, which helps you a lot here, I think.
Yeah.
So Spellmartyr runs up.
So Anamag is actually a Fury 7, but she is a Blighted Ogrun model, so she gets the benefit from Veteran Leader.
She sure does. That gives you 6s to hit, which is helpful.
Yeah, so I'm just making sure I don't engage that. That thing is going to charge a stone and proc a Ritual Slaughter.
This is a Chieftain, right?
Yeah, the War Chief.
Yeah, so the War Chief procs Ritual Slaughter. You channel Ritual Slaughter through the Spell Martyr, which has now been confirmed to be a thing you're allowed to do. There was a brief period of ambiguity about whether or not you could channel outside of your activation.
Yep, and I pull him 6 inches.
And you roll the 6 on the Gallows to pull Kromac 6 inches, which is spectacular because that means you really only needed the 1 Gallows.
Yeah, so at this point I have a bunch of Fury. So Anamag's going to go. I think it's going to be feet turn. We're going to Carnage in order to make the Blightbringer more accurate, and we are going to also look at potentially getting rid of Spiny Growth with the Hex Blast.
Yeah, she also has Hex Blast, which is really strong.
She basically is a tool for every situation on her card,
which makes her very powerful, but it also makes her very complicated to play.
Yeah,
because you always feel like you're doing maybe not quite the right thing. So the first thing we're checking is, can the Blightbringer, with the limited and quite restricted movement it has available to it, can it get into melee range with Kromac right now? Mm-hmm. And the answer is just, I think.
Yeah.
Not by a lot, but it can. So we don't actually need to Gallows a second time. So at this point, you decide to Hex Blast.
Yeah. It's going to put a couple more points. I need a 10 here because now you're engaged.
Yep. But, I mean, again, being magic ability effectively 8 because of Veteran Leader, 10's not totally unreasonable.
Yeah. That's true. So let's look at my Fury situation. Potentially have a Fury Strength to seal the deal, but I don't think I need it here. Especially since I did manage to spike pretty hard with the Gallows damage roll. So we're doing okay here on the take Kromac down plan.
Yeah, still, like, he's 14-20, and the Blightbringer is necessarily going to have to attack across a wall. Mm-hmm. So that kind of cancels out Carnage. So now you're looking for 8s, and can we get Rotteneye in that action? Like, make that 6s, but there's still some dice to be rolled here.
Yeah, I wound up spiking a bit on Kromac, and also with the Hex Blast, it lands, it takes off Spiny Growth.
Yeah, so a couple of things that are cute about the Hex Blast here is that Hex Blast is almost like a POW 17 Hex Blast, because it's benefiting from Dark Shroud and it's stripping Spiny Growth on hit rather than on damage.
Yeah.
So it ends up being dice -3 and does a nice, comfortable 7 or 8 points of damage to him.
So the Blightbringer walks up and is now warping for Withering Ash instead of Dragon's Breath.
Yeah, so that's clever. That drops Kromac down to a 12. You're Carnage, so you're an 8. You're attacking over a wall, so now you're looking for 6s to hit. 6s feel pretty safe.
Yeah. I boost a hit here, just looking for the crit poison. I do get it.
Yep.
Kromac sure needs to transfer that, but now it's almost... it's not going well for him. So I wound up boosting hits by attacks.
Yeah, you buy boost your last attack, you hit, and that kills Kromac dead.
Yeah.
Had the game progressed a little bit further, I think I'm pretty happy with the situation in terms of scenario scoring. It's very possible that you do bring that unit over with Anamag's feet and kill the Woldwrath. If I kept Kromac up, say, behind the objective, for example.
Yeah.
If you kill the Woldwrath there... am I able to take the Blightbringer in rebuttal? Probably not. If you leave Hunter's Mark on the table, I think Ghetorix was close to in threat range. I think Kromac might have been personally, but then again, he's pretty far up the table and pretty exposed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's there's definitely a lot of things to go for there, but I think it seemed like the Assassination here was the safest line of play.
Yeah, well, especially since I wound up going down on scenario like I did. So essentially I had to just... Something almost made me panic there and sort of forced my hand in terms of dealing with that one, and then I managed to get the distance I needed.
Sure. I mean, that's how it goes sometimes. That's the game of War Machine after all.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, folks, thanks very much for tuning in. As I said, we'll be back next week. If you are watching this video on Patreon, we thank you very much for your support. If you are not, note that you can get Arcane Assist videos 1 week early by subscribing to our Patreon. It's $1 per video. We only charge you for the weeklies, like the regular once per week ones. But everything we do post to Patreon first. So if you feel like you are in an economic situation where you could support us and want to support us, we appreciate it. If you're not and you just enjoy checking out our content on YouTube, that's totally fine too. Thanks very much. And thanks again, Craig, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on.
See you next week.
See you later.